Welcome, I'm Crazy Kylo. This video is going to cover all of the advanced strats for the UC2 any percent route. If you are new to running this category, I'd recommend checking out the other video that covers the basic route and strats, as everything that I'm going to show in this video is fairly difficult to do. I will say this now, there are multiple setups for some of the skips you will see. If I know how to do them, I'll do my best to show them off, but otherwise all of these skips will be showing the setup that I use and is most consistent for me. We'll also have my inputs on the screen as a visual to my explanation. So with that, let's get into it. Okay, so this is the first skip. This is at the very beginning of chapter 2. So normally you'd climb up here and the normal route just kind of goes this way and climbs on the pipe. There's a quick little out of bounds here. So if you, how I like to do this, I like to face back towards this doorway and then I hold inspect and just back up. And you'll kind of get elevated. You can kind of see if you go too high, you'll slip, but you'll get just elevated enough, like right before you start slipping. And then I align Drake's right shoulder with like this right inside part of the arch. And then if you just jump and hold forward, you'll grab it. And then from here, I'll just pull myself up. You do need to be a little bit careful. I think you can go over this side, but is how I generally do this is I just kind of turn the camera this way, and then we're wanting to jump to, kind of hard to see, that like wooden platform over to the right. So how I do this is I'm going to move forward and Drake's going to like fall a little bit, but he won't fall like off of this. He just kind of like falls a little. And then when that happens, I start mashing jump and I hold upright. So you'll kind of see like right there, he fell. It's not a very big stumble, but kind of just enough to start changing your inputs. And then when you're up here, this goes into the next skip, but this next skip is not consistent enough that I would recommend triggering Flynn just in case. So you have to come over here and touch this corner, basically. So once you touch it, you can just come over here, and then that's the trigger that will give you this, so you can progress.
Now what do you bet that?
So this is the next skip. This is called Flynn Boost skip. So normally you would just sit here and you would wait, and Flynn will eventually move and he will push you.
Just give me a boost.
But there is a way to bypass that. So you can jump on this pipe here. The best way I've found to do it is, instead of thinking about like trying to jump to this corner, try to like aim so you jump on the very left side of the pipe. And how you kind of set this up, I kind of line myself up about like right here. So like this first full block that's past this archway. Kind of stand on the left side. You don't want to be standing on the line. You want to stand just a little bit back. Otherwise, if you're standing too close, you'll have this happen. So you'll just kind of like jump up against the wall and then you'll do this. So you don't want that. So you want to just be just a little bit further back, and then you're just going to kind of jump a little close, but you're just going to kind of jump, and your goal is to land on this left side of the pipe. Okay, so once you get on it, where we want to go is we want to get to that ladder, essentially. And how I do this is I keep the camera how it is, and then I think of this more as like a timing based thing. So I'm going to hold like mostly right and a little bit down. And then it's about like 0.3 seconds later. It's roughly about there. Like I'm going to hit X once. And it's basically, the timing kind of works. You're basically turning Drake to face towards the ladder, and then you're pressing X to jump, or essentially grab the trigger to pull yourself up there without Flynn. If you end up hitting X too soon, you'll just jump straight against the wall and you'll fall off the pipe. And if you hit X too late, you'll end up just jumping like straight across. You won't grab the ladder. So I'll try to show this, but that's kind of how I've worked out the timing a little bit. And if it's easier, you could always try visually, just waiting for him to turn before you jump. But you could see there, I just fell off. So sometimes you might be on the very edge of it. There we go. So just like that. So mostly right, a little bit down, and then pretty much as Drake turns towards the ladder, I just press X once to get this. And then from here, you would just climb as normal.
It's locked. Good job I came prepared.
Okay, so this is the next skip. I'm going to show this. It's just a faster way of clipping through the door. It's a little bit faster. The main difference with this one is you're going to hold left, and then as soon as you can move, you're going to rotate the stick up towards the top, and then you're going to hit circle. So like that. So it's very quick. It's like the moment Drake can move, that's when you're going to rotate, and then I just start spamming circle. But you do need to be a little cautious, obviously. This one is a lot easier to mess up, and if you do, you have to restart checkpoint, and you'll have to rewatch that entire cutscene again. Okay, so this is the last major skip in Chapter 2. This is called Ultimate Gate Skip. So I'm gonna very slowly like walk through this. There's a lot of different parts, and once we kind of get past this very first jump, I will show you the route, because when you're doing this normally, you're basically gonna have only visuals to look at. You won't physically be able to see all the scenery and stuff. So I feel it's probably important that you at least see the route and maybe get a feel for it yourself. And then when you start going for this, you'll have a good feeling of what you're walking on, as you won't really have any visuals other than a couple of things that I'll point out. So immediately when you restart checkpoint, or if you can just come straight here, you don't have to restart checkpoint. I'll restart checkpoint and I'll just kind of show you. So you would jump over twice. You want to be in this corner. So immediately I hold like down right a little bit and then press circle to get in cover, and you want to be facing this way. So how I do this is basically a frame perfect jump. We want to get over to that like flat little, we'll say balcony. So we want to jump over there. The biggest issue though is we kind of have to manipulate the camera to work with us to let us get over there. And how I align the camera for this to work is, if you see this post right in front of us right here, that's center of the screen, I align this by aligning it with these like posts in the background. So we'll call this like fence 1 that's closest to the wall that you can see. So I'm kind of just going over fence 1 with it. And then this is like fence 2 right here. And then this is fence 3. And we're not worried about the other 3 on this side. So for this one, third one from the far right, so this one that it's hovered over on now, this is where I end up aligning it. So I try to have it so the left side of this post is aligned with the right side of that star that you can see in the background. You can kind of see that the edge is just barely touching that right side right now, maybe slightly overlapping. And this is kind of where I align the camera up to just get this jump. This makes it so the camera will pretty much agree with you, because you try to line it up elsewhere, it might like inverse and it'll make you jump to the left here, which is not what you want. And we pretty much want to be jumping to that far left corner of the balcony. If you jump, you can maybe hit it a little bit to the right, but if you're too far to the right, or you hit that like short edge, you will not get up there. So it's a pretty precise jump. I line the camera up right here, and then how I know when I need to be hitting jump, I use the camera as it quickly pans across the screen. So the air conditioner, the one on the left right now, when I do this jump, the screen is going to pan quickly to the left. And when it pans and the edge of the camera, I'll try to show it, so it hits this left edge, that's when I input the jump. We're going to go over there using an inspect jump. So I'm going to line the camera up, and then I'm going to do an inspect jump. And then when you see the camera pan and it hits that far right side of the air conditioner on the very far left of my screen, that's when I'm going to jump. So right there. So I was a little bit late. It's really hard to tell. It happens pretty quickly. Okay. So if this does happen where you feel like maybe you're just barely missing it or whatever, you can always adjust this a little bit. Like maybe I need to adjust it a little bit to the right. So I'll keep trying this. There. So I made that small minor adjustment, and it was enough to let me get onto this corner. So this is the hard part. Once you're here, or this is one of the hard parts. Once you're here, you'll just come up this way. This is a normal climb, and then you're going to get into cover here. So once you're here, you're just going to do another inspect jump to grab this. You can normal jump, but I find it just more consistent. You do a little inspect jump, you'll get up here. And basically what we're going to do, hopefully, I'm going to try to turn the camera and not have it freak out. You're not supposed to be up here. I'm not going to move it. It looks like it's not going to break, but you can kind of see we're gonna basically just run and get up on this ledge that's just above Drake's head right now. And we're gonna like run across, and you can kind of see, like, I'll move over here a little bit. I'll zoom out a little. You can kind of see where this roof kind of like turns. It's got a like pretty dominant like corner right here, and then it goes towards this tower that's in the background. And where we want to position ourselves, we're gonna navigate around this edge, and we're gonna be pretty much like on that first little, you can see it kind of like curves in on the higher part. There's like two little spots in the middle. We're gonna be somewhere around there. And what this is gonna do when we vault this, I'll actually show this. So when we vault this like this, you can see that everything disappears. You'll notice Drake disappears. And it's actually, for whatever reason, he is here, but it's pushing him down like very low. If I go into this and back up, you can see even though we climb that, it actually pushes him below the roof. I'm not really sure why, but this lets us do some interesting things. I am actually surprised that that didn't break it. Normally, you can't press inspect or go into photo mode during this. It will generally break it. Sometimes you might get lucky, but I would try to not do that. But what this is going to let us do is we're going to walk around, and then when we do a normal, or this is kind of a different inspect jump, but we're basically going to be doing another variant of an inspect jump. Instead of having to be in cover, we can just straight up press inspect and then jump, and it will still work the same way. But when we have the camera glitch like this, where Drake's at the bottom, it will actually teleport Drake to the top of the screen, and then he jumps from there. So you can kind of see where that tower, that like green tower is. There's a roof right there. That's actually, we can abuse this little teleport thing to actually jump onto that roof. So yeah, you can see now it fixed it. So I'll jump down, and then if you hit inspect, you can always kind of like fix it. So if you ever like are really not sure where you are, you can always do it that way. So I'm going to come up here, climb back up like normal. And you can see I don't have to do anything. It will just break it. So how I line this up to kind of get in position before we do this first jump is you see the fountain in the background. I try to align the right camera, or not the right camera, the right side of the screen with the right side of the fountain. Feel that this just kind of works pretty nice. So I'm gonna jump forward twice, and then I'm gonna move just a little bit forward and to the left. So 1, 2, and then a little forward and left. And I'm gonna stop. And the angle I found this, it is kind of hard to tell right now, but you can kind of see in the sea right now, there's like a whiter part kind of in the bottom area, and then there's a circle in the middle of the screen right now. And where you want to aim to jump is on the left side of that white circle. It is hard to tell. You will have to kind of get a good feel of like where you're looking at. Like if I was to inspect, I mean, you can still kind of see it if I turn it. Like I'm basically looking on the left side of that white circle. And what we're going to do is we're going to do an inspect jump, and then we're going to turn the camera to the right. So I'm doing inspect jump, and I'm going to turn the camera. And I caught this edge, so this can happen sometimes. The main reason we turn the camera is, let me move forward just a little. You can see though, this has got us up to this ledge. So the main reason that we turn the camera is, for whatever reason, if you don't, you have like a higher chance of that like camera state breaking. So like right now, the camera is normal. By turning the camera to the right, it helps maintain that. So that's why I do that. You do have about like a 50-50 if you have what I just happened, where if you grab the ledge and pull yourself up, you might maintain it, you might not. I just got unlucky, but that's okay. So I'm going to try to show the rest of the route while I'm here, and then we'll kind of like walk through this. So let me not run off the roof, actually. Okay. So we're over here in this corner. So normally you would jump up here. So this is only part of it. You'll still have this broken camera, but once you're up here, how you can kind of position yourself is you want to kind of do this. You'd want to jump against like this edge right in front of us. So it doesn't matter where you're at. You just need to make sure you can't go any further right because there's a literal tower there. But you need to be careful about going too far to the left because you can jump off and just fall to your death. So how I do this is I just slowly turn the camera left and then just start jumping up and a little left. And eventually you're gonna just have this happen. That was almost there. So you'll actually like make the jump. So we'll just keep doing this. That's really close. There we go. So I just jumped around that edge, and I'm gonna jump one more time forward, and then I'm gonna go into this. So you can kind of see, can't really see Drake, but we're basically jumping over that corner, and then you jump over the corner, and then you would jump 3 times. And you can kind of see there's another, the roof continues on this side. So you would jump 3 times forward. So that was 1, 2, and this is 3. And this puts us right here in this corner. So you just have to be careful you don't go too far to the left, because if you roll off this edge, you just fall to your death. But this is where we want to be. So you would jump 3 times forward, you'd be here, and then you kind of have to navigate this roof. So how I do this is I'll just kind of move down a little bit, and then you can just kind of hold like up and just kind of start directioning yourself. Because you're not going to fall off if you're running into this wall. It's better than running too far and going off the edge. So you kind of go this way, and then you can see in the background there's these 3 little like spinning things. This is like a good, like, that's where we're headed. And this kind of tells you like where you're at. So as I keep moving this way, there's a corner right here, and it kind of lines up. I'm holding like up and left until I get there. I've just rounded the corner. If you are like a pretty visual person and you have a good feel for this, you can kind of see that when the camera's facing these, that the edge of like this awning or whatever I'm on is pretty much lined up with this spinning, right? Like this little spinner right here. As long as you're not like past this, you pretty much are good to go. But once you round this corner, you jump up and right. So we're basically just running against this to make sure that there's no chance we accidentally fall off. And then you're going to notice once we start getting close that smoke's going to show up. So right there, smoke showed up. So we're basically trying to jump up above that ledge that you can see up there. And how this works, if you're too close to the wall, you could hit the wall and then that will break you out of it. You have to redo all of this. Or if you jump too far, you won't make it over that fence. So the positioning that we use for this is when you first see smoke. So right here, we'll take like a little step forward, about like that much. And how I position this is I would line this up so the left side of the camera is on the left side of that spinner. And then you would just do an inspect jump. And that would be close enough to make this. Obviously, I don't have the camera, so it's not going to work. But that's how I line it up. So this, I'd wanted to do this to show you like the entire pathing that we're actually taking, because you can see like there's not a lot to go off of. But now that you kind of have that pathing seen, I'm going to do the actual skip. Okay, so all of this together, I'm going to line this up so the left side of this pillar is on the third post next to the star, and then I'm going to do a jump when we see the left side of the screen hits the right side of this first air conditioner, like right there. So this can happen. You still have to restart. You actually cannot get yourself up here. Okay, so we're up here now. This is honestly the hardest part. You might end up doing this a few times because this, again, is a frame perfect jump. From here, come up this way, get into cover, do an inspect jump to get up here. And then I like coming out to this like line right here and then just kind of like hooking to pull myself up, just because it kind of like lets you see what's going on before you pull yourself up here. And then we're going to line up with the right side of the fountain. We're going to jump twice and then move just a little bit forward and left. So I was just around the corner. We're going to turn this and we're going to line it up. So I'm jumping on the left side of the white dot. Then I'm going to do an inspect jump and turn the camera. You can see this time, because I didn't grab the ledge, I maintain this. And then I try to turn the camera forward. And then I want to basically jump against this wall, because that lets me know that I am positioned against that little platform now. And then I'm just going to slowly turn the camera left, and I'm looking to jump over the corner. Right there. I landed. I'm going to turn this back and I'm going to jump 3 times forward. So 1, 2, 3. And I do hold like up and right a little bit just to make sure I'm not, if I do have a weird angle, I'm not actually jumping off the edge. And then once I'm here, I know I'm in that one corner. So I'm going to turn this and then I'm going to go down and around. We go around the tower here. And then I'm just going to hold up left until it lets me go forward. So right there. And then I start jumping upright to make sure I don't fall off the left side of the roof. And then I see smoke, so I'm going to go a little bit further forward. Then I'm going to turn the camera so the left side of my screen is lined up with the left spinner. And then I'm going to do one last inspect jump. And that will get you over here. So now you can see we actually jumped above that fence. From here, we're back in bounds. So you will come over to here. And then when you pass like this edge right here, you'll do a restart checkpoint. And this will load you into the later state of the game where you come here with Flynn. And then from here you would drop down, and then this is just as usual. Okay, so there's a couple of skips here. There's a new one that's just found. I'm going to show that at the very end pretty much. So we're going to go over, this is, I'm going to say an older strat now, but this was the route essentially for a while. So the main difference when you do this fight is there's a guy up here that drops an AK. You need to kill him before you finish killing every other enemy in here and pick up the AK. The main reason being that when you kill everyone, you get a checkpoint. And if you don't have the AK and you mess anything up, if you have to restart checkpoint, you will lose it. And for all of these skips you're going to see, you need to be able to airwalk. Okay, so this is the first one. The normal route does a journal extend that goes this way to the rock. Instead, what we can do is we can do a zip, or it's like a zip airwalk. So there's only been, I think, 1 or 2 that do this in the normal route. But the reason this one is not a part of the normal route is because it's a very precise airwalk. So how I line this up, as you can see here, there's like this dark little like lines here on the ground. I kind of put my foot over them, and then you can see here there's like these lighter blades of grass that I'm aiming at that kind of make this like X. And then you can also see like right here there's like a piece of light. It's almost like a beam right here. So how I kind of aim this up is I want to be aimed so this horizontal blade of grass is in the center of my crosshair. And then I want to be lined up so my crosshair is pretty much to the left side is touching that beam of light, and then the right side, depending on when the wind would be, is kind of basically touching the right side of that like vertical piece of grass. So this is kind of how I line it up. So I know I'm like aimed at a relatively good spot, and then if you see at the very top left of the screen, you can kind of see a few blades of grass. This also is just kind of like another visual that some people have used. I find it helpful as well. It just kind of tells you you've got a pretty, like, you've kind of lined this up good enough that when you do the zip, this should work. So as soon as you think you're good, you're going to let go, and then we're going to do an airwalk that's pretty much like up and right. Like this. And then we're going to go this way, and as soon as you hit this corner, you're going to pause. The reason being, if you pause too late, like essentially if you don't pause instantly, you, for some reason, will get the checkpoint and not get it. So I don't know why this happens, but pausing, as soon as you hit this corner, you get a checkpoint, which I'll show you when I restart. I will get the checkpoint. If you were to wait, like, let's say it's 0.5 seconds to about 3 to 5 seconds, for some reason, it ungives you the checkpoint. But then after like about 5 seconds, it will give it back to you. So if you don't pause instantly, you should maybe just sit here and just wait a few seconds and then pause and then restart checkpoint. But I'm going to restart, and you're going to see that this is where it's going to put you. So once you're up here, there's another, instead of climbing this, there's another little zip that we're going to do. So this is an actual zip. The main difference is we've been doing zip airwalks. Zips are just going to fling us around, but it's not going to soft lock us. So what I do for this is I'll step up on this generator, and then I start just kind of backing like down to the right. And you can see here, you can see where this wheel is, and then you can just barely see like the axle that goes under the gen. I try to line it so like I'm pretty much like as far right as I can go right now on the gen, but then I try to have my foot like just below that axle. And then when I think I'm good, I'm going to let go and I'm going to hold upright and just press journal. And this is going to just push me this way. And then you can just jump up here and you can just grab this ledge. Okay. And now we're in chapter 4. This is pretty much right after you've passed the fighting tutorial, which you should have skipped. You will still have your guns, assuming you didn't actually go into the fighting tutorial or you didn't RC. You RC, you will lose your guns, and this will not be an option. But there, instead of dropping down, there is a slightly faster skip here. So you'll climb up on this rock, and this is a very precise launch. You're basically gonna do a launch straight to the left, and you have to be like just high enough that when you jump into this tree, you basically will get stuck there for a second. You kind of want to be like above this flower, like your feet should be above this flower. I think that's about what the right height is, but I'll kind of show you. So you'll vault up here. You'll want to use the pistol for this. And then you'll kind of just want to slowly move to the left, and you're going to just wait until you get about a full stagger. And then you're going to go left, and then you kind of have to play with this timing a little bit, but go left and then do it. And you can see this is probably a little too low. We'll see here. Actually, it's perfect height, so it's just below the flower. But you can see it pushed me against the tree, and then it put me over here on this branch. And then from here, you need to be careful. If you jump too far down, you'll die. I believe you can just run off this. You cannot just run off this. So you do need to jump. Okay, so I just kept going forward through the next fight. But I can basically explain what needs to happen. So obviously you just saw you cannot just walk off this, you will still hit the trigger. So you would jump, you'd basically jump over here. So you just want to land up here. You can even land on the log. And then this is the pathing you would take. You jump down this way, and then you're just going to come this way. So it's basically just kind of skipping that little cutscene when you get in or down below the waterfall where you'd have to do all of this, stealth a guy, grab some guns, and then come over here and do a little launch this way. So it's just a little bit faster. Gets to the same spot over here. And you can see, like, if you do all of that first try, it probably saves around 10 to 15 seconds over the normal path. Okay, so we just did one route. That was kind of the older route and all the faster strats and skips that you can do instead of the basic route. And then I'm going to show this. This is a newer strat. This was found very recently. So you're going to come up this way. You swing across here. Again, you do have to do an airwalk. So there is a guy up here with an AK. You do need to kill him and grab the AK before you kill all the other guys. And what we're going to do, so there's two parts of this. There's a launch and then there's an airwalk. First part, I found using a pistol makes this more consistent. So you can see this like black dot right here on the ground. So I kind of stand over that, and then I'm just going to vault upright onto these boxes. So we'll look at this and I'll kind of explain it. So we're basically going to transfer our momentum. We're going to get like a forward stagger on this box facing this way. And we're going to use that to transfer our momentum straight to the left here. So it's just a straight left launch. The difficult part about this is if you are too far to the right, you won't get any height. You'll just walk down pretty much back to where I'm standing. Or if you're standing too far to the left, you have the chance where you might get too high up. So this is a very precise launch where if you're too low, you won't get into the spot. And if you're too high, you will just die. Like you'll just jump to your death. So it takes some practice. So like I said, how I do this, I stand in this black dot and I vault up here. And then I aim down sights and I just kind of like tap upright. And you can see I'm like pretty much hugging the left side of the box right now. Drake's left foot is like right over it. This is what we want. And I'll kind of trigger this again. And so basically what we're going to do is when we get this, I'm going to just hold left, and then pretty much as Drake is walking off the left side of the top part, left top part of this box, we're going to press journal. So I'll show this now. So you can actually see right there, a little bit further to the right. You got to be pressed up against this. Like that. And so from here you're going to just jump, and then you're going to just land in this invisible platform. So it is kind of hard to tell. You'll get a feel, but if you're like kind of above, you can see like right here the leg of the tree kind of like, it kind of like bends down a little bit. If you're about like here or so or up, it's going to work. If you start getting above like this portion or so, kind of where like this joint is on this further back branch, or actually this is probably about where you want to be, but if you start getting above here or you start seeing a lot of white, you're going to basically jump over this invisible barrier. And pretty much what's going on here is there's almost like two invisible barriers, as mostly this wood has a very weird hitbox. We're kind of like, we're out of bounds, but we're still like almost in bounds. There's like an inside barrier and then a very slightly higher outside barrier is how I've been thinking about this. And we need to get lower. We want to get onto this wood here. And how we do this, you got to be pretty careful. If you jump straight this way, you will actually land back in bounds, but this is high enough that it will kill you. So you want to jump backwards, pretty much back towards Sully. So I'm going to turn the camera this way and I'm just going to jump and press down. And if that's like the worst thing that can happen pretty much is if you're holding too much down, you just won't go anywhere. So I'm going to go just slightly down and left. I'm just going to keep doing that until I fall. So now I fell here. And then at this point, you're pretty much good. You just need to make sure that that does not happen. You do not want to fall off of the branch. So I will get back there and I'll just talk about things to avoid. Okay, so I'm back up here. So again, I'm going to just press down and jump. And then I land here. And then I'm going to turn the camera a little bit more this way so I don't fall. And then just kind of jump over here. So there is an invisible barrier here. You can't jump over this. The only way you can get back in bounds is by going too far this way. But this does show you if you move too far forward, you'll fall down into this pit and you will just get stuck here. There's no way to do an airwalk and save this from down there. So you do need to be up here. And from here, this is like the second part. We're going to be doing an airwalk over to the tower that I'd pretty much stopped at on the last norm, or the old skip, or the old route. So one thing to keep in mind is if you are all the way back on this far edge, like I can't push any further back, you're actually slightly too high up to hit the checkpoint. So pretty much try to do what I'm doing. I move down about like right here, but what I do to line this up is these two circles here. You can kind of see where I'm aiming. There's like a black dot here, and then there's another black dot here where I'm aimed at. So I try to move my right foot so it's covering about like half of that dot. And then I'm going to turn and look this way, and you can see there's a branch here, like this pretty thick branch. And then there's this little skinny one that kind of comes off of it. It's got this like little leaf here. And you can see there's this thinny like thristle that's coming off of it, and then there's this thicker thristle. So I look at this thicker one, and when I'm standing here, I try to aim so it's like, this is like what feels the very precise part to me, is lining up where the point of the thristle is. So right now it's about like center or so, like very center of my reticle. I'm just going to slightly move it to the left. So it's almost in between the middle and the left side. Maybe just slightly to the right of that point. And from here, this is the angle I set up on. So I'm going to do an airwalk from this. And the tough part about this is you are on a slope. So if you aren't holding fully forward, you will start walking up. Even if you slightly walk up, it's just enough that you will not get the checkpoint. So we're just going to do it, and we're going to see how this lines up. Okay. So a good visual is, it's about this distance. You'll start seeing like you from the generator. And as long as you don't see yourself going up, like it doesn't really look like I'm gaining height. I probably have a pretty good airwalk. So now the question is, did I line this up properly? What we're looking for is this tower. So when you're not moving, you want to basically be lined up either, so Drake is the middle of this tower to about the right side. So right now, this honestly looks fairly good. It looks like I unfortunately did press up a little bit. So even though this is like a perfect angle, I'm a little bit too high up. And you can see this is where you want to be. This would have worked had I done a perfectly like forward airwalk. You can see I had to have just barely not been like 100% forward on my press. And that's actually why I didn't get it. But this is the exact angle you would take. Okay, so that was pretty much identical. This one, I do feel like I'm not moving up at all. So assuming the angle's good, this should work. Okay, and you can kind of see right here, so I'm trying not to touch the camera to let it fix. I'm pretty much on the right side of the tower right now, so this should work. It should be just low enough now that we're going to see Sully spawn in there. And as soon as you see Sully spawn in, you can restart checkpoint. Okay, so however you decide to get here, this is the last little skip. Immediately when you get to this part, instead of dropping down, we need to do an airwalk to get to this ledge here. So we'll just quickly do an airwalk to get over here. Throw the grenade. So the main reason we're doing that is there's a load once you hit here, or like a trigger that loads the next portion of the game. And by doing that little airwalk, we skip that trigger, which the most important thing is that basically unloads a checkpoint that we're going to be doing the zip at. So we'll keep coming along this way. And then when we get to here, you can actually see the next area is unloaded. The main point being that when you get to about right here, you would hit that checkpoint. So this is why we do that little airwalk. But this is where we're going to do the zip. So there's a rock here, and then there's a rock wall here. So how we do this, just kind of like line yourself up with this left wall here. And I just like hit left until I literally can't go left anymore. You can see I'm not moving left. And then you're just going to kind of look forward and just slowly start tapping forward. You're going to see I'm kind of like slowly moving to the right. And then right there, started walking up. So once you just start walking up, you're actually like kind of position yourself in a corner. So we can actually do a zip off of this. So from here, I aim at like the base of like this little red stem coming out of the flower. And then you have to do this pretty quickly, but you're going to do a forward airwalk from here, but you're not going to let go of aim. So I'm just going to immediately switch to my other gun to initiate it. Like this. Then this will push you down, and then this will just literally zip you straight into the trigger into chapter 5, which is what you want. Okay, this is the setup for the next skip. This is a chapter 5 zip. So the main reason I'm showing this far back is because depending on which method you do, you need 2 grenades. So you will always kill this guy, and then if you do decide to do this alternative method, you need to get a grenade from this guy. So make sure you pick up the grenade before you kill this dude, because once you kill him, you get a checkpoint. And if you're going to do this alternative method, then you're going to need 2 grenades. But two ways. So the zip that we're going to do is in this corner behind the fence here. There are 2 ways to get out of bounds. I'm going to show you the first one. This is what I do. This is what I would recommend. It's not as difficult to do, but it's called propane clip. So we're going to pick up this propane tank and we're going to go over to this corner. And how I line this up, some people might say that it's just kind of getting lucky, but I've felt like doing this little setup that I have has allowed me to climb the propane tank, which is what you want. When you climb the propane tank, for whatever reason, it lets you clip through walls. So how I do this is I kind of line Drake's head up with this lighter brick, so it's kind of in between the window and the dark. And then if you look at the top left of my screen, you can see these little like swirly parts on the top of the fence. I try to line it so like either this top portion on the right side or the bottom portion on the right side are basically like just out of frame. So you can see like the very top swirly part on the right side is just out of frame. And once my camera's kind of set up like this, then you literally just throw the propane tank and just hold forward and spam jump. We're just going to do that. And then you're going to notice like right there, I climbed it. And you're kind of just waiting for this to happen where it actually just pushes you through the wall. So again, I'm going to line this up. We're just going to hopefully clip. So that was a very like crazy one. Normally you'll just go to the wall to the left, but like I said, it's very weird how this works. So this is where you'd pull yourself up. Normally you would clip out on this wall and then you would just climb around, and then there's like a higher ledge here. I'll actually show it. So yeah, I can show it. So this is where you would normally be. So you would clip out about like right here. So you'd go around the ledge, and then what I do is I jump once and then twice, and you can kind of see I jumped up. and then I'll move over left once, and then I'll pull myself up. So this is like, this typically lines up so you pull yourself up about right here, but this gets you out of bounds. And this is one way of getting to the zip. Okay, so if you're gonna do this method, this is something that has not been done in the basic route. Is honestly a very difficult trick. It takes a lot of practice. This is an upwards airwalk. So how this works is you climb up on this washing machine. I'm not 100% sure if that's what it is, maybe an oven. And basically how this works is you probably or hopefully used to normal airwalks, where the goal is to basically do an airwalk and fully press like forward. But there's something weird that can happen when you do airwalks like on top of things, specifically like flat pieces of things. Like this is relatively flat, which is what you want. If you try doing it off the car, that wouldn't really work because it's got a lot of curvature to it. But the reason this works is when you do an airwalk and you kind of delay your forward press or don't fully press it all the way forward, for some reason when you have that slower speed and then you walk off of something like this, it starts making Drake go upwards, which if you've probably noticed that on slanted things already. If you try doing a airwalk, you might go up or you might go down. This just kind of abuses that. So the goal is to basically slow airwalk, and you need to basically, like, when you get to this sign, you need to be pretty much even with it, like your feet should be here. And then we're going to get high enough that this post right here has a very high invisible wall. Getting like here and above pretty much allows us to clear it. And then we throw a grenade up against this wall and it will hit us to unsoft lock us, and then we drop in to that state. So I'll try to show this. Again, I am not the best at this airwalk. So I'm gonna aim in, kind of see this like lighter post here. I believe you want to aim like either this dark one or in between them. And then I'm gonna try doing this airwalk. Again, I'm not perfect at this, but basically how you can tell more or less what you're doing wrong is like your height is dependent on when you press forward and then how soon or late after you press journal. Okay, so you can finally see I've got one. This probably is still just a tad too low. Yeah, it is. But you throw it up against this wall, and then this will like knock you. This actually somehow worked because it pulled me towards it. So you can be a little bit too low, but ideally you're about like even with the top of that sign, like I was saying. But once you get here, you'll either land on this ledge or you'll drop straight down. You can just like roll and you'll grab some ledge here. But this will still get you out of bounds. Again, I would say if you're learning that you do the propane clip. Is a lot more forgiving and a lot easier to learn, as this is a very precise upwards airwalk. This is the actual skip. This is the chapter 5 zip we're going to set up for. So how I make sure I set this up, if you kind of start from up here, you can see I'm actually holding right and I can't get any closer to the wall. So I kind of back up and kind of make sure like when your foot's kind of like dangling, like pretty much on the, it's even with the edge of this or even almost like going over, lined up with the abyss. That's as far right as you can be. So you're going to kind of just walk along this edge. And then how I line this up, I like having the gun about halfway through. And what I want to aim at essentially is I line my reticle up so it's the left side is even with the left side of the brick here. And then I try to make sure that my reticle has half of the brick on the top half and then half of the ground on the other half. And how I know I kind of have this lined up is I'm trying to find the angle where I'm going to pretty much have this set up, and the gun is going to have about like this much in the wall. So you can see the gun kind of like curves in on the left side about halfway. I'm just going to kind of move until like that portion is no longer visible. So like right there. So, or it's barely visible. And right now I've got my reticle set up. So like half, again, the top half of my cursor has brick in it. The bottom half has the ground. And then the left side of my reticle is lined up with that left portion of the window. And then from here, we're going to do an upright airwalk. And the reason I'm showing the timer on the screen is because this is how I count things out. So we're going to do this, and I'm going to try to explain this quickly because it's probably going to be very difficult to pause and not load in the whole area. But, well, I'll talk about it now. So we're going to do this. There's a potential of a ledge that we're immediately going to get stuck on. As soon as we pass that ledge, we count 6.5 seconds and then we pause. That puts us far enough in that it starts loading the next area. And once we see buildings load in, we're going to unpause. And then we're going to keep going, and we're eventually going to see the buildings fade, and we're going to just see yellow. And when that happens, we're going to do a quick pause, like pause and unpause. And then there's going to be an invisible wall that we get to. And how this works is there's an invisible wall and then one that's almost like a foot behind it. And when you pass that second wall, you want to pause at like 0.8 seconds. So I know that's a lot of information, but I'm going to try to count this out as we do it. So I'm set up, do an upright airwalk, and then here we go. So I'm stuck on the wall right now, so we're just going to wait, and I'm going to count once I get past it. Use the timer as a reference. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. So about 6.5 seconds, we're going to pause. We're going to wait till we see buildings. There we go. And then we're going to unpause. And then quickly pause when everything fades. And then we're at this wall. There. So that was slightly early, I think. This probably won't work. But you could see I got caught on a wall. And then I went slightly a little bit forward, got caught on a second wall. And then 0.8 seconds after that, you want to pause. And then when everything loads in, you're going to unpause. And that stair right there, you can see I actually did pause a little early, is basically where you want to unpause. So we're basically trying to get the pause timing at the top of those stairs. So we are back in bounds and we're basically sitting on the cutscene trigger when the area loads. That is what we're trying to do. So if you pause too early, you won't hit it. And if you pause too late, you have what's happening now. Same thing if you pause early, is you basically bypass the entire level. So at this point, we're too far. We're just going into the abyss. We'd have to restart checkpoint. Okay, so we're back here again. We're all lined up. I'm going to try this again. Three, 4, 5, 6.5 seconds. Okay, unpause, quick pause. And then that was probably a little too late, but this might still work. Anywhere from like 0.7 to like 0.9 you can usually get away with. Okay, this is good. So there are times where you might have your angle a little messed up, and instead of going straight into the cutscene, you'll end up in a different corner. This is chapter 7, so if you end up in this specific corner, you're actually gonna just throw the grenade. So it's like right here. We basically want to hit the propane tank, which will hit us. If you get hit by a propane tank and a grenade, it will just kill you. So there's one spot you can end up. I've ended up here before. You want to throw it. I don't actually have a grenade. Oh, I do have a grenade. Wish I didn't throw it now, but you can just aim right here at this panel, and that will hit you and not blow up this propane tank. And then okay, I hit the end of the chapter. You can kind of see how big the actual area is to hit the trigger. So I'm going to go into the next chapter really fast, and I'm going to show you the last spot that you can end up at. Okay, so like I was saying, this is ideally where you want to like pause at the top of the stairs. You hit this big trigger that goes straight into the cutscene. And then I showed you those two spots, but there is a chance that you end up over here. So you'll literally zip and you'll be anywhere from about like where I'm standing now to this pot. I believe if you're standing like where I'm at now, you can throw the grenade so it arcs on the left side of the wall about like right here. You need to make sure it's going to bounce off the left side and not have like a right facing bounce. And if you do, it should bounce behind this pot and blow up, and it should hit you, but it should not hit these propane tanks. If you're not specifically right here, like if you're higher up on this, you'll actually be too high up, and regardless of where you throw the grenade, it will blow up the propane tanks and you'll instantly die. So just keep that in mind. You pretty much have to be like right here. This is the lowest point that allows you to still save it. I think it's possible maybe to get here and get stuck, but if you're going left at all, you know, you might still be able to save it as long as you don't go up. If somehow you do just get stuck here, you could just throw it along this edge, like maybe here or so, and you should be fine, but just keep that in mind. Okay, so this is the next part. So when you land here, you're going to restart checkpoint like normal. And then I'll show, there's actually two different ways of doing this. There's a small little zip here. There's a setup and there's a fast setup. So how I do this one, you'll have the Uzi out, and I line my foot up so it's about like right here. It's a little bit back from the first bar. And then you're just going to switch weapons. Like you can maybe aim a little bit to the left. And you're just going to do like up left, essentially. So you go this way. I'm going to pause and just restart. But if you get that, you're basically, you'll go straight in below the stairs and you'll go straight into the cutscene into chapter 8. But if you want to, there's a slightly faster way. You'll still spawn in the same spot. What you do is you switch to the Uzi and you just jump on these crates. And in the same spot, you're just going to switch and kind of just press up right. And you're going to do the exact same thing. That one, doing the fast setup is not that difficult. It just takes a little bit of practice. You just kind of need to make sure that you're roughly jumping on the crates. You could be a little further to the left and still get it. But again, if you're not comfortable with that, you could do the actual setup that I just showed. Still saves you time over just running, and it's not difficult to set up. So the next one, we're in chapter 8. So there's 3 grenades here. If you spam quick enough, you can actually get 4 grenades from here. I already picked up 2 from the previous chapter. So like the gunner fight that you do in chapter 7, there's 1 or 2 grenades in there. If you want to do this first airwalk, you need to make sure you have 4 pretty much after you've picked up all of these, whether it be a combination of getting grenades in here or the other. Or, like I said, if you get lucky, you can spam triangle fast enough and you can maybe get a 4th grenade out of that. But you can only do this very first airwalk if you have 4 grenades. If you do not, you'll not have enough for when you get to chapter 9. So keep that in mind. But to do this, we're going to do a sideways airwalk. We're going to kind of line ourselves up here so we're like about even with the rug of the carpet. And then as soon as we do a full stagger, we're going to go straight left and do this. And then we're going to aim against the wall. So a lot just happened there. As the camera turns, like about as we get a little bit in front of like the golden statue part, we're going to throw it to the left at where I did. And depending, I threw it a little bit late, so it kind of pushed me a little bit further. But you can actually have it like hit you and just grab this ledge or land up here. If this does happen, you'll just step on this and then you can just climb up. Not a big deal. And then immediately from here, we go straight into another one. So the basic one shows an airwalk that goes to this corner. We can do another zip airwalk, essentially. So take out the small gun, step up onto this, so you get that step. And then you can aim anywhere from about like this right part of the sign to about like to the pot. Actually, yeah, don't go past this line to anywhere about the pot, like the left side of the pot. So I'm going to aim just in the middle. And we're going to just switch and just do a forward airwalk from here. You're not going to let go of the Uzi because right now we have like a stored stagger, essentially. So we're going to just let go, pressing right, and then we're going to do a forwards airwalk like that. And then before you get to the wall, you want to throw the grenade. If you wait too late, sometimes you might be going up a little bit further. If you wait till you hit the wall and then you throw it, there's a chance that you get too high up and the grenade, when it goes off, won't actually hit you, and then you'll just have to restart. Okay, so the next part is right here. So as soon as you climb up this statue, you can do either this first pillar, like as you climb up, or you can do the second one. I've had them both work. I've had them both fail. To me, it's just if I do one and it doesn't work, I'll do the other. But I'll just show it on this closer one. So how this works is you're just going to stand in this corner. You're going to pretty much just press down and right until you can't move anymore. And then based off this line here, I like to aim about like 20 or so degrees to the right of it. So, you know, if we went to this corner, that's a 20-degree angle. And then once I'm kind of staring at this point, I'm going to just switch my guns and I'm just going to do like an upright airwalk. So like that. And ideally, or hopefully, you land exactly on this little statue right here. Otherwise, like if you're holding too far to the right, you'll probably just fly straight across here and then you'll have to restart. But this is where you're trying to hit. Okay, so there is a fast setup. I am not great at this. I'll try to show it. But what you're going to want to do, you're going to switch to the Uzi and then jump in this corner. And then you're going to do like an up left airwalk. So like something like this. And you should still end up in the same place. It's a lot harder to do. It's a much different angle. I'm not a huge fan of doing like an up left airwalk when I'm not even facing that direction, or when Drake's not facing that direction. But you can see it's slightly faster than lining it up if that's something you want to do. And then immediately after that, so the normal strat is do a straight left upwards launch airwalk. We can do another one right here. It's a little bit faster because where this one will always take you out of bounds, this one has a pretty good chance of getting above the statue head but not out of bounds. So it can just save a little bit of time. But how you want to do this is you're going to step up onto this like this, and then you're just going to like, I do like upright, just a little nudge. And again, this is a pretty common thing with a lot of these skips. As we're sitting on a ledge right now, we basically have like a stored stagger. So if I was to let go, we would stagger forwards. You don't want to do that, so we're going to do a forwards airwalk out of this. But to do that, instead of letting go and initiating it, we're just going to immediately press right on the D-pad and then do a forward airwalk. So immediately I'm going to switch and then do an airwalk. And you can see that right here, like, I actually went a little bit higher, but you can see it is a little bit faster. I probably could have angled a little bit to the right, but you can essentially get like right here. You'll just walk straight up on this and then you can throw the grenade. So if I would have aimed probably a little bit more to the right, I would end up here. But this just kind of shows that the slightly faster setup if you don't mind doing a diagonal airwalk. And here's the last one in this chapter. So right after you turn this first mirror and then you go and put the dagger in this, we're going to come this way like normal. But this time, instead of actually like going this way to climb up the blade, we're going to just come this way onto the other side of the stairs. And we're going to do something similar. We're going to do a journal launch, a sideways journal launch, and we're going to do a slight delay on the journal press. So we can go a little bit further forward and actually hit about right here, which is like a small cutscene when you're walking on this. So how you line this up is you can kind of see there's like a little perforated line right here in the stone. I kind of stand about like where I'm aiming right now. So just a little bit like in the middle of this large section of stone. And then you're going to unaim, you're going to let the full step go, and then you're going to switch, press left, and then kind of like try to delay your journal press as much as possible. And if you do it right, you'll have this happen. Okay, so this is the next part. This is the very beginning of chapter 12, right after you kill these guys. So in the basic video, I showed an easy way where you get up this way and do a somewhat diagonal airwalk, and you get up here. Then I showed another one where you step up from here and you go forward straight into a cutscene. We'll call this medium difficulty. This one is, we're going to say hard difficulty. So you're going to come over into this corner. And we want to get a vault up to about like right here where I just shot. So face this way. You gotta be pretty far away to get this. So about right there. And then I'm gonna aim about kind of like where the doors point here. And then we pretty much have like a stored stagger, like a lot of the other skips. We're gonna immediately just, instead of let go of aim, we're just gonna switch by pressing right on the D-pad. And then we're gonna do a forwards airwalk. Like that. And then if this should line up so you get pushed out from under right there, and then when you get to this top roof, we're going to throw the grenade. So one thing to be careful of is if you aim too far to the left, that roof that kind of, when I got to it, it just kind of nudged me to the right. If you're aimed too far to the left, you'll get stuck under there. So just know that that can happen, and you just need to aim a little bit further right. You can also like do this too fast. Like, I believe if you hit journal too quickly, you'll just go straight up, and you have to do it really fast, and you won't actually walk up onto this ledge. But once you're up here, you're just going to come around this way and you're just going to drop. Like, this is right where the zip line is. And you'll just immediately hit triangle and then you'll restart checkpoint. So this bypasses that whole cutscene and just puts you down here pretty much. So a little bit faster, but it can be a little bit harder. Okay. Chapter 17. This is one of the most infamous skips in this entire run. So the reason this is so difficult, because unlike any other skip we've done, we do not have a gun here. You can see pressing left and right, we have no guns. So this is one of the most unique skips because we actually rub against like this rock terrain. For whatever reason, it has this very weird, gives us very weird collision and gravity. And it just kind of, if we have a good angle, it will literally just launch us off to the left. And there's a couple of setups that kind of take advantage of this, that give you a good enough angle that we're basically just going to launch straight to the left here with enough speed that we will load into a later, pretty much the very end of chapter 17, the big room that has the Yeti. And with a little bit of pause timing and a little bit of luck with the angle that it launches us, we can pretty much position ourselves so we can pause Drake right in that room. And that's pretty much the whole goal. So there's two setups. I'm going to show the setup that I've found to work most consistent for me. And then I'll also show another setup I've seen others do. It's a little bit faster. I wouldn't recommend it if you're learning, just because it's not as precise. It's kind of more adjusting as you're going into the angle. It's just more for if you have a really good understanding of how this works, getting more attempts and being able to do it faster. But how this setup works is you're going to pretty much come to this part where I'm at, and you're going to have your left foot forward, and then you're going to jump against this wall. And you can kind of see, like, at the very back of where Drake's foot is, you can see a small rock, and then you can see a big rock. So I try to jump. It's very, like, weird. Like, any part of jumping where I'm jumping can push you back. You just kind of have to jump until you're pretty much positioned where I'm at. So his leg is basically, like, touching the small little rock. His left leg is touching that small rock, and then just barely touching the big rock. And once you do this, then I kind of bring the camera normal so you can see this little line on the wall right above Drake's head. It's kind of a small little wall in this little portion. What I do is I line up Drake's left ear so it's covering almost all of it. If you do this faster, Drake will not be turning his head and stuff. So you do kind of want his head to be straight, so you can kind of see it's really difficult because he keeps turning it. So about right there, that's straight. So even though he just moved it, it's covering most of it. You can see that's covering like most of it. And then once you have this angle, what you're going to do is you're going to hold almost completely up and just a little bit left. If you hold too much left, it will actually push you out, I've found. And then at the same time, once you're holding up and a little left, you're going to turn your left analog stick to the left. So you're basically going to make a 90 degrees. So we're like the camera's almost even with the wall. So I'll kind of show you. So this way, and we're going to turn it. And you can see that was actually really close to launching, but that's pretty much what we're trying to do. This is like the best setup I've found that will give you a lot of like good chances at launching, but it's not a guarantee. So you could do the same setup, and it is somewhat just kind of hope that you get lucky. It's also just really hard to set up because you're basically lining stuff up with Drake while he's moving. So while I'm here, I'm also going to show the other setup if you want to do this yourself. Maybe you like this better than how I set it up. I've seen a couple of other runners do this, and it seems to work pretty well for them. But what you're going to do is pretty much, you see where my foot is right now around this like big rock. I use Inspect to line this up, but you kind of just roughly need to be standing around here. You're going to line your foot up here. I don't even think it matters if you have left or right foot forward. Although it might, but you're pretty much going to line the top of Drake's head with this like line, so it's kind of in like the center. And then you're pretty much just going to do like the same thing from here. You're just going to hold forward, and then when you get on the wall, you're just going to turn the camera. So I actually did get a launch. Unfortunately, I keep landing in the same spot. So when you land here, you're just kind of in the abyss. But that kind of shows you, like, you could see that it actually did work. It's not any more consistent, I don't think, but if you like doing that more, just know it's another option. So here's an actual clip of me getting the skip. As soon as you're launched, you're going to start pausing using photo mode, and you'll see I turn the camera back towards the beginning to try to judge if I'm in a specific spot where I need to be paused at. You honestly have to get familiar with this exact spot as there's not much of a reference. I try to judge this though off of Drake's distance from the beginning mountain when you turn it back, and then I wait for the black box to load in. And then depending on how close Drake is from that, or maybe depending on the angle that I launch, I may stay paused until the level loads, or unpause and repause to position Drake slightly further away. Okay, so right after you do this very beginning skip, and you get down here and you step on the pedestal, you restart checkpoint, there's an alternative strat here. It saves about like 10 or 15 seconds, I believe, but if you miss it, which it can be a little challenging, then you end up losing all that time anyways. So what you're going to do immediately after you restart checkpoint, you're going to swap to your pistol and you need to bring this out so you can get a delayed journal extend here, and then you're going to do the same here, and you're going to come across this way. You need to be like spamming journal to put it away quickly because you are on a very tight time. As you can see, you have to be able to jump all the way over there, so you have to be able to do this relatively quickly. So this should make it this time, but I also, when you get on this, I wouldn't like spend too much time running on that. You can pretty much jump halfway to make it over here. So now we're back on this side, so we're gonna come this way. If you run and gun, you can avoid a ledge grab there, and then we're gonna stand on this hand, and we're gonna do a diagonal upright airwalk. So about that. If you wait a little bit longer to do it, you won't go as high, which is actually beneficial, because if you get too high, you'll jump in this corner, and if you jump in this corner, there's basically no ledge there. So this platform does extend a fair bit. You can see right now I'm just standing on nothing. So if you can delay it, it helps, because you want to just get enough height so you're pretty much just landing on this platform. And then you'll come this way. You can just press X to get up here a little quicker. And then I run and gun, so I come over to this corner. And what we're going to do is we're basically going to jump from here to hit a checkpoint. So there's a checkpoint that's pretty much... It's about like right here. It's really kind of hard to show, but I'll show you how I line this up. So starting from this edge over here, you can kind of see there's like a point right here. So when you're running, like, there's a point here, which this one's like the closest one, and then the next like really dominant point I would say is right here. So how I line this up is looking at this point, going straight up. We actually want to run, so you can kind of see this like curve right here, or point in the architecture. This is kind of where we want to like angle up with. So we want this to line up with the point essentially. So you're going to kind of stand here, and then when you're ready, actually a little bit too far to the left. When you're ready, you're going to do a journal extend. So you're just going to run doing a journal extend, and then you're just going to spam and jump forward. And this should line up, so like right when you get even with this platform, you don't want to hit it, and you basically are just rubbing up against it. So once you rub up against it and kind of just Drake's head passes where the actual like curve is, or the ledge, you can just restart checkpoint. And you'll see that this spawns us here. So from here, you can just do this as normal. And that just saves about 10 to 15 seconds if you do it all perfectly. Okay, this is chapter 21, so there is actually a pretty insane skip here. So as soon as you skip, you're going to hit square as normal to throw this guy off the edge. And then what I do from here is I'll kill these guys just so they're not annoying later. But you're going to get to the front of this car, and you're going to look like this way. And then the earliest I've found you can jump, I think you do it slightly early, but I always feel safe to just slightly wait. I wait until the current time says 13.5, and then I jump in this direction. And this is generally like early enough that I'll grab the ledge of the car. So there's 13.5. If I grab this, you need to, that was a little bit early. So you'll probably grab the back of the truck, which is what you want. And then you'll want to step in the bed of the truck. that will, stepping in here is what gives you a checkpoint, but if you just restart checkpoint from here, you get a very long loading screen. But for some reason, if you hop over and kill yourself, as soon as you see a death screen, you restart checkpoint, this actually makes it so it's a very short loading screen. So you want to do that. Okay, so from here, you'd kill these guys. And then I dangle about like right here, just off the center. And then I turn the camera so it's perpendicular with this, and then I just wait. And then when we see the car on the far left of the screen, we're gonna jump. They're right there. So that was really close. So kind of how this works is I got the camera angle set up in a way, we're almost jumping back right, that when you see the car enter, you should basically just be jumping straight into the back of the car. That's pretty much what we're aiming for. You see the car, I jump, and I landed in this seat. So this is honestly fine. So you can make this jump from where his body is sitting, this back seat, or ideally you're in the back. I'm not going to move if I'm in this seat, because there's about... You can actually get stuck back here, so you just want to like not move and wait. And there was two things that could happen right there. When we got near the gunner, we could have it not glitch out, which is what we see now. It just looks like the normal camera. But sometimes if you're too close, it will actually give you an overhead view. And when it does that, it actually changes this last jump we do. So I'll show you what this would look like with this camera, and then I'll go back and I'll show you what it looks like with the glitchy camera and what you need to look for. So right now, we're just going to wait. Once it speeds up, this is actually the car we want to jump to right here, right in front of the gun. And immediately, like, I actually was stuck. But once it's close enough, you can actually just make that jump straight onto it, and you would just hit the end. But now I'll show you what happens. So ideally, you would aim and you would go to the left side of the car, but if you're a little too close, you'll have this happen. And so if this happens, you're not going to move. You're just going to wait. And then in the bottom left of the screen, hopefully you can still see it with the PlayStation controller, you're going to notice in the bottom left that we're going to see some rocks here. So he's going to stop. We're going to see a little bit right there. You can see rocks in essentially the bottom left of the screen. And as soon as you see that, you pretty much just hold forward and just start spamming jump. And that just lines up with jumping forward onto that car. Okay, the next little skip you can do here. So this is right after this machine gun fight. You wouldn't use a machine gun. But immediately you'll see that Elena is standing right here. And similar to chapter 2, we can actually use her to clip through the door. So how this works from restart checkpoint, when she lines up with about right here, you're going to roll at her, like pretty much her back leg, and then you're just going to keep spamming circle, and you're just going to hold upright, and that will get you on this wall. You can see at any point if you're on that, you will actually clip through. And then from here, you could do it from here, or if you like it better, you could come down here if you have more space. You're still going to go to this, but this is just a little bit faster and less chance of death, since you're just taking a straight airwalk straight at this instead of a diagonal around, or pretty much a hilly airwalk, which you could go down and step on the water and die, or go too far left and the cliff and die. And then when you're here, there is a precise airwalk you can do. You can kind of use this to your advantage, even if you don't get it. So this is like a little zip airwalk. It will launch you up this way, and it's going to basically place you up here, like by this. You can get up to where I'm aiming now. You just have to make sure that there's a small chance that you could go up too high and you'll actually trigger the fight that's up there. But generally, it's pretty safe. If you do screw it up, there is a checkpoint when you pass this wall right here. So you'd climb around, you'd hop down. If you have a weird angle or you screw it up, as long as you hit this wall, you can restart checkpoint and it will spawn you up here. So you can always use that instead of doing a journal extend across and then climbing up. So as long as you just relatively understand how to line this up, you could just quickly do it to get the checkpoint, and then you could just do an airwalk as normal. Otherwise, if you want to really try this, I'll try to show you how you do this. But this rock right here, so we're going to just position ourselves on the right. We're going to just slowly come up here until Drake's toe is like just barely like over it. So like that, which is barely onto the white. And then you can see right here where I'm aiming, there's like a almost L shape that this rock kind of comes together. You're going to kind of aim so like the black portion is in the middle. You can actually see I just slipped down a little bit. So about like right there. And then from here, you're just going to let go and you're going to do an upright airwalk. Like this. And you can see this. I could probably get this to work if I throw the grenade correctly. Yeah. So it wasn't perfect. I didn't quite get high enough, but you can see I made it over here a lot quicker. And then one thing to know is there's a skip I'm going to show in chapter 23. You need to have at least 2 grenades at this point. I'm going to pick up the third one because never a bad idea to have extra grenades if you screw anything up. But you need 1 grenade to do the zip here to get across the bridge. You need at least 1 more to do the next skip that I'm going to show. Okay, so this is the next skip that I was talking about where you need a grenade for. So pretty much what we're going to do instead of jumping across is we can do essentially a stored stagger. And then we're going to do like an up left airwalk. It's fairly precise. It kind of bypasses like this little awning that sticks out. And then it's really hard to see. But there's another awning on this building across from us. And we're basically going to like thread the needle and get on top of that building. So how to set this up? Actually, the setup for this is pretty nice. As soon as like from restart checkpoint, you're just going to jump forward and then aim. And I don't think where you aim matters too much. I kind of aim like around here, like in the middle of this panel of the door. And then we're going to do an up left airwalk. Like this. And if this does happen, if you time this grenade right, you can actually save it. Oh, that almost hit me. As long as you're going slow, you do have the potential. I think if I threw that a little bit closer on the edge, that could have knocked me out of it. But we'll try it again. Ideally, you get on the roof because you will just run along the roof and it's a lot easier. Aim here. You can see if you do screw up your timing at all, that you'll get a very slow upwards airwalk. I probably can make this work. So I'll try to show this. I'll throw it here this time.
Oh boy.
There we go. And this actually did work. So you do want to get up here. I'll see if I can show it, but when you do land up there, it's a lot easier. You'll jump down here, and then you basically are just bypassing the cutscene by jumping down this way. But we'll keep going. So you come this way, you'll just jump down. And then you'll come this way like normal. There's just not going to be any enemies here. The one nice thing about this is you don't have to like climb up and go kill the gunner. You actually don't need to hit the checkpoint, but there's more deagle ammo there. Grab it for the next fight. Grab this, and then just like normal, you sit on this wall and get ready to clip. You just need to kill 1 guy and then clip like normal. So the rest of this is the same as everything else. The next thing you can do here, so this is pretty much at the end of this next fight, you'll kill him, and then instead of just grabbing the rope if you want to, you can do a upwards direction. It's diagonal. You just kind of go this way, and then like as soon as Drake touches that window, you're going to restart checkpoint. So it's a little bit faster than climbing the rope. Okay, so this is chapter 25. There are 2 faster skips here than the basic route that's shown. So this is immediately after the Guardian fight that you have here. You would climb up, you'd come over, and then normally you would vault up this and you'd continue on this way. So this is an upwards airwalk. This is probably the fastest skip that you can do in this chapter. It is just very difficult. I'm going to try to show it off so you can have a rough idea. Again, it is very difficult. So if you're not familiar, how you do upwards airwalks is somewhat delaying your forward press during the airwalk. So Drake isn't moving at full speed. And that causes him to walk upwards a little bit, which is what you need for this to work. So the actual angle and stuff, you vault up onto this, and to do the airwalk, this band is kind of what you're aiming for, essentially. So you're going to do an upwards airwalk, and you basically need to have Drake, like, as he gets to this wall, not be higher than this band. If you're even like a foot above it, you're going to be too high up to actually get the grenade throw at the end. So keep that in mind. And then where you want to specifically aim to do this, I think you can aim anywhere from about here to like this little thing in the background. I just aim at this bird, and then I'm going to let go. And also I try to make sure, as you can see, like I'm not, when I let go of aim, I'm not staggering. So you want to make sure that you're not doing that, because you could get some extra height if you do. I'm going to aim about the bird, and then I'm going to try to do an upwards airwalk. Like this. So we'll just kind of wait and we'll see. And you can already tell. So this band I was talking about, you can see like it's hard to keep it in camera, but I'm probably about like 3 feet too high. So if you notice that you're too high up, it's better now to just restart. So here's an actual clip of the skip, which I got from Wild. So immediately you can see he gets a low enough angle. So when he gets to the band, he's walking over it. Eventually, when he does get to the wall, you'll see he's using the grenade arc to know exactly how close he is. And then once he stops over the top of the wall, he looks slightly left and he throws the grenade on the dark wall in the background. And once that grenade hits him, he falls straight into the chapter 26 fight, which spawns you at the very beginning of the chapter. Okay, so this is the last skip I'm going to show. This is chapter 25 still. So the normal pathing or the basic route, you would stand here, you do an airwalk across. There is actually a zip right here. So pretty much you can do it along this whole window or ledge right next to the window. I've found that if you do it further back, like by this window, it has a much better chance of success. Because when you launch off this, if you're on any of these rocks, this has the potential to be like uneven ground. And when you launch off, it will shoot Drake upwards, which you do not want for this. So I stand in the back here. So I'm going to stand here. Pushing left, you can see I can't move. And then for aiming, I aim anywhere between like this bamboo shoot on the end to like this kind of pile right here. And then this needs to be like a very up left airwalk. So I'll kind of show you. So like this. So if you press too far to the left, Drake will actually do an airwalk that will pretty much just walk into this wall, which has a chance of getting stuck or getting a wrong angle. So you'll do it like that, and then we're going to wait, and we're going to pause when everything fades to black. You want to try to do this like as close to it as possible, just to give yourself time. And then when it kind of loads in like this, so you can see the bridge load, we'll unpause. And I just barely missed it. I wasn't holding up enough. But you're supposed to get caught almost immediately after unpausing there. You could see I kind of got pushed to the left. And if this happens, that means that you're actually, the angle you were using, you didn't hold up enough. Like, you have to pretty much hold very up left for this to work. So you'll see if I let go, I'm just going to die here. Okay, we'll try this again. So come back to this window. I'm going to aim in between this time. And then we'll do this angle again. Okay, so as soon as it fades to black, pause. Let it load. Okay, loads in, we let go. And right here, you can see we just got stuck on something. So we're actually running against a tree. And we're basically wedged in between like two branches right now. So how I've found to do this, you can kind of see if you look like pretty much upright, almost where Drake's facing, a little bit further to the right, we can throw this. And I try to aim up on this because I think there's a ledge here it can stick on. But as long as you kind of throw it in this general direction, it will stay and hit you. And then you can see if I move around, or maybe I can pause, that if I just walk in this direction, we'll actually hit the end of the chapter. So you're like really close to it. Right there. Okay, so I just wanted to show this one more time. So standing on this ledge, again, I'm going to aim actually in between these two spots. So whatever this like dark beam is. Then I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do the airwalk or zip. And then I have been finding, like you can kind of see I'm going towards this column. I've been finding that if you're like pretty much lined up with this, that's what's going to get you caught. So like if you see that you're maybe too far left or right of that, you're probably not going to get caught right here. So just keep that in mind. But again, I'm going to kind of look in this general direction. I'm going to throw it, and then this will break me out. And then you just kind of run in this direction. So I just kind of, I guess if you kind of use the background here, just kind of hop this way into chapter 26.